What do you do with that? But sometimes when we're listening to a sermon, we have thoughts that we were like, oh, I would like to make that comment, or I have this idea about that, or whatever it may happen to be, so here's your opportunity, I guess, to do that. We'll go with it. We are going to backtrack just a little bit, just to kind of, and again, he even stole this part. When we're looking at Luke 15, kind of what's going on there, but we've talked about the various ways, and this will be our last class in this quarter, the various ways in which Jesus taught. And we talked about Sermon on the Mount, so there'll be situations where maybe you're going to teach large groups. There will be situations like Nicodemus where you'll have a kind of a preset study. We kind of think of like the home Bible study type thing. We have situations like the woman at the well that are going to be kind of like you're just impromptu, kind of comes up in conversation and you kind of run with it and go from there. But then we also talked about, and really we've kind of really only covered this one, but teaching methods, things that we can do. And we talked about parables. Probably one of Jesus' favorite tools, one of the things he's most well known for as far as teaching is the use of parables. So before we kind of jump into that again, what is a parable? Okay, so specifically the name itself, para, okay, that prefix, okay, means just to lay alongside. So we don't typically, again, parable's not a word that we are going to normally use out and go, hey, I've got a parable for you about this thing. Right? We call them what? Analogy is probably going to be the most common word. It's an elaborate metaphor, okay? Maybe a simile type things, those things where we're going to go, nope, I'm not going to answer this, you are. What's the purpose? Why go with this analogy, parable, elaborate metaphor, thing, all that? Yeah, what's the deal? Be able to understand? Good, go.
That's exactly it. It takes oftentimes a complex philosophy or principle of life and narrows it down to something that is relatable to the audience.
Yeah, you've got this thing where maybe the people don't understand it, and then I need you to break it down in a way that makes sense to me. Yes, Scott? Yeah, so it's going to be this, again, maybe again, those of us who teach on a full-time basis, do this for a living, there will be times where we need to explain something to a class. There's this, I need you to grasp this concept, and we know it's difficult to get because that's not maybe something that's a normal part of their life. And so what I do is I go, it's like this. And sometimes when you do that, again, sometimes we're successful. And you go, oh, now I get it. The little light bulb comes on over their heads. You can watch it in their eyes where they go, that makes sense to me now. I understand what we're doing. Sometimes the light gets dimmer and you go, that didn't work. Let me try another one. Because sometimes the thing that we're trying to explain to them, they can't either make the connection or they're not familiar with the thing you're using to explain it either. If you go into an urban setting, and I go through an elaborate analogy about farming and how farming works and all that stuff, they're maybe looking at me and going, huh? I've never done that before. I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen it in movies or something like that. So for a parable, for an analogy, for these things to work, we need to be using what we would call common language. What's happening here in this specific context? Where Jesus feels the need to use these three stories. Hint, it's in verse 1.
Specifically, you have Jesus teaching and accepting, kind of bring to repentance, these outcasts in society, the tax collectors, the sinners, and the Pharisees are harping on him for that. You shouldn't be associating with these people.
Yeah. The Pharisees have this idea of here's what this is going to look like. We've been waiting for the coming Messiah. We built up the coming Messiah in our head that he's going to act this way, do these things. Then the actual Messiah comes and he does the things that that he's doing, and they look and go, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why you're acting this way because that's not what the Messiah does. And he goes, hang on, let me tell you a story. In fact, let me tell you 3 stories, and hopefully at least one of these stories is going to make you go, oh, I get what he's doing now. Maybe I don't 100% understand it, but I at least have a better idea of what's going on then than what I did when I came in before. That's the hope. Going back to what Jansen was saying, right? You're not being gentle in your approach. You're not understanding these folks that I'm talking to, that I'm working with, that I'm accepting. You don't get this. Basically, you don't get me and why I'm here. Let me explain to you through these illustrations, and hopefully you'll understand. So last week we looked at 2. What's the first one? Okay, so you got a sheep. All right, and so again, he talks to a group of folks that probably are familiar with sheep herding. And they go, what would you do if one of your sheep leaves? All right, would you just go, you know what? We got 99. It's all good. No, what does he say instead? Yeah, you're going to be like, you're good here, but I need to go out and I need to go find this one. I need to expend an effort to go out and find this one that is lost. And then he talks about it's finally found. And talk to me about what happens. Party, yes. Go on. What does he do? What is the shepherd who is looking for the sheep when he finds them? What does he do? Before that, what's he do with the sheep? Picks it up and puts him on his shoulders. Okay, again, another illustration of the care that he has for. I'm going to carry you home. I'm going to make sure you get back here safely. Then, once he has arrived safely back home, then let's make the announcement and let's celebrate. And then it makes that famous statement that throws some people off. Again, he's making it for a reason. What's the response? Or what's the point of the parable? Good. The angels in heaven are going to rejoice more over this. So just like this farmer rejoiced when he found his sheep, you need to know that in heaven, this is what it's like when a sinner who was lost comes back. Okay? And then he's like, just in case you didn't get that one, maybe sheep herding's not your thing. Maybe you're not real familiar with that. Let's go with something else. Okay? Point B is what? Let's go with money. Okay, money is fairly familiar to most of us in a very similar way, right? There's this 10 coins, one's lost, 9 of them are safe. There's an extensive search that is made for the lost one. And again, in similar way, when the lost one is found, because we're not content to go, well, 9 out of 10 ain't bad. Let's just go ahead and, cut our losses and be happy with what we've got. Be content. It's like, no, make an extended effort to go find it. It's actually found. Rejoicing happens. And that statement is repeated again. In case you're missing the point, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about what happens in heaven when a lost one is returned. And then he goes, maybe the one about sheep didn't hit you. Maybe the one about money didn't hit you. I think I can go with one that's going to really send this thing home in a way you understand. And this is the one he goes the most elaborate in. Go, Jansen.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jesus just...
You've already taken my sermon. Keep going. I mean, that's fine. No, you're all good. Yes. Good. Yeah, this isn't a marred coin. This isn't a sheep that is lame, crippled, that we're like, oh, well, I got back a semi-good one. It's like, no, it's right back into the fold like the other ones are. Al, do you want to make your point now that you were going to make last week?
Yeah,
definitely going to go to the next one, yeah.
But we talk about the rejoicing in heaven. The angels rejoice in heaven over one sinner. And I wonder sometimes why that's not as visible to us as maybe it should be. And I go back to the idea of maybe we don't really appreciate the value of the one that's lost.
Yeah. Yeah. When, and Alan was talking to me about this, he said, I thought about this, but it was right at the end of class, and I didn't know if we, really had time to really delve into it, but it was a really good thing. So it's like, yeah, let's bring it up again, and let's make sure we get it in class this week. This is supposed to liken, what would happen when we become aware of an individual who is lost. And extended efforts are made to restore that one back to the fold. And if we're going to follow suit, we're going to act out this story in real life. What should the response be when the sheep comes back to the fold, when the money is found and back with the rest of the money? Overwhelming rejoicing. Does it always look like that? It sure doesn't. And maybe sometimes the sheep doesn't want to come back to the fold because the sheep's not sure how the rest of the flock is going to respond. And maybe they're more afraid of how they're going to be received than they are of remaining in their lost state. And what does that say about us? Because it ought to be, and I'm preaching to David right now, but it ought to be visible, obvious rejoicing. I talked last week about a cousin of mine who had been gone for years. She had made the choice. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I like this lifestyle that y'all live. I'm going to go do my thing. And her family said, okay, we don't like this either. Okay. And really, I will tell you, for the most part, because I was a very, very young kid when she decided to depart. And I was an early teen when she decided to come back, to the point of when I saw her, I was like, is that who I think that is? Because it had been so long since I had seen her. But I can remember, because it was during the service, when my aunt and uncle came in with her. And they sat down, and of course, as soon as the sermon's over, she went forward. That's the kind of rejoicing you want, because that day, again, that one sticks in my brain, because there was incredible, because for the most part, we thought this is over. There's no hope. She'll never come back. She seems to be happy and content in the lifestyle that she has chosen, even though it's wrong. But man, that's what you want. That's the kind of rejoicing that needs to be happening when the lost has been returned. Did you have something else out?
Yeah, back to if somebody is hesitant to make their life right again with God or come back, if they're hesitant to do that because there's an apprehension that people might not receive them back, shame on us.
Yep.
That should never be.
Yeah, if we ever become the obstacle that gets in the way of somebody returning back to God, we have done this all wrong. We messed this up completely in the way that we chose to handle things. So let's look at this last parable. Starting verse 11 of Luke chapter 15 says, and he said, there was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to the father, Father, give me the share of the property that is coming to me. Again, not that I'm owed right now, but coming to me. And something I never noticed before, so I was doing the study, look at the next part. And he divided his property between them. He went ahead and did it. So they both got it. We talk often about the fact that the younger son got it early. They actually both did. Got earlier than they should have. Okay, going on. It says, not many days later, the young son gathered all that he had, took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in the country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of the country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pig ate, and no one gave him anything. Okay, and as Jansen pointed out in the sermon, and as Jesus often does in the stories that he tells, let me take this to an extreme so you understand how bad this is. You know, there's a purpose for picking a Samaritan to be the good person in the neighbor story. You know, it goes there because I'm trying to teach not just this lesson, but a bigger, broader lesson. So I need you to understand just how far this son had gone in his departure from his father and how his life had fallen apart to where he's hanging out with a pig farmer, which again, in the Jewish culture, you've hit the lowest of the low. You're down there, you can't do any worse. And he's starving to death. I want to eat what they've got. And it says, no one gave him anything. Go to verse 17. But he came to himself. But when he had come to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish with hunger? Okay? So he had that moment. What do we call that in life, I guess, that what had happened to him? That sometimes it takes. He hit rock bottom. Okay? He got to this point where probably he could not have or would not have allowed clarity of thought to happen had things not gotten as bad as they got. It needed to get this bad for him to go, wait. And I love the phrase that it says, when he came to himself. So we look at that passage sometimes that talks about train up a child when he is young and he'll never depart. And we look at that and go, some people want to go, that's a guarantee. If you train them up right, they're never going to go astray. That's not what that's doing. Again, that's what Proverbs are. That's not really the point of those. It's going, you have a much better chance of your child going the right way if you train them up properly. And what it does for them, it does something like this, to where then they get in a certain spot where they can go, hang on. I recall something in the teachings of my youth that makes me believe at least there must be some other hope. There must be some other answer than the one that I've chosen to pursue at this point. So he comes to himself and he's realizing, you know, he probably felt stifled. He probably felt repressed in his father's household and said, if I can just get out there and be free, how good is it going to be? And now he has an opportunity to sit back and go, you know what? Life in Dad's house wasn't that bad. And not only was it not that bad for me as a son, but you know what? The servants actually had it pretty good too, at least compared to the life I'm living now. So he makes this realization. He says, when he, again, 17, when he had come to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. So when is he ready to return home? When he has the mindset that says, I no longer deserve to be considered a son. I deserve to be considered a servant. Or I am willing to accept the role of servant and renounce basically my sonship, my rights to that. Yes, sir.
There's a part of the story that we don't really focus on a lot, but I think it's really one of the key parts of the story, and that is when the rebellion took place of the younger son, the father would have been within his rights in that culture to say, well, they'd never come home.
Yep.
You're done. We're finished. You're done.
Yep.
He didn't take that out. What he basically did is he showed compassion to his son even before his son left because he divided his love with him. And then he made sure, at least I like to think he made sure that the son knew the way home.
Yep.
Because the reason we know that is because
almost blow my next point.
Sorry.
All right, great. Anybody else want to ruin my class today? No, I'm kidding.
But I think it's
Yeah.
a story that's really important here because
Yeah.
you talked about the rejoicing of when someone's lost and they come back.
Yep.
This is the point, right? Is that you don't cut it off to the point where there is no return. You know, we may be the one that has been abused. We may be the one that feels like we've been offended. We may be the one that feels like the person hasn't put our interest at heart, that they become selfish and self-centered
Yep.
to the point that they want to leave. But you don't cut them off because once they come back, if they do come back, there's that opportunity for rejoicing, which everybody wants. And this is the example that Jesus is trying to get us to see.
Yep.
That just because you've messed up doesn't mean it's the end.
Yes. Yeah, and the way that we're doing this, if you've made the choice to depart, and that's the way that it always should be. We didn't push you. You chose to leave. I need you to understand, if you ever come back, please come back. And we are right here and we are waiting. We'll be looking, we'll be watching, ready to go, whatever it is that we need to do. Yeah, I know I told this earlier, you know, when I was raised as a kid, and again, improperly, in this particular instance, I know the church used to teach this thing about if somebody is withdrawn from and they're walking along the street, you go to walk the other side. You have nothing to do with them. You know, that was the way that I was taught to do that. And you know, after a while, it was like, dude, no, that's never gonna, you know, if you see them turn around and walk the other way, stuff like that. I don't know if that's because of the little bitty town I lived in, and literally you were gonna run into, probably because most of them I was related to, we're gonna run into each other, you know, and they're like, you know, you're not supposed to have to do anything with them, and yeah. No, that's not. The entire thing should be every opportunity I have. I need you to know that I love you. I need you to know that I'm praying for you. I need you to know that I want you back. I need you to know that God wants you back. That's the way that it should be, so that if that correct mindset ever comes, you already know, we're ready. Come on, please. We're ready to take you in. So I love kind of what Jansen said. You know, you can imagine he finally makes this decision. I'm going to go back. Going to go back home. And probably along the entire way, he's rehearsing the script in his head. Here's what I say whenever I see Dad. Here's how this is going to go. And he's probably going to be mad at me. And he's going to want to. And I'm going to go. Hang on. No. Wait. I'm not here to ask to be home. I'm not asked for everything to just, you know, don't act like nothing ever happened. It's like, no. I'm coming to you as to beg. Please let me be your servant. I understand my son relationship with you, that's probably marred beyond, you know, it can't be fixed anymore, it's done. Right? So he's mentally prepared. He's rolling through this. He's got it in his head. Right. Verse 20 says, and he arose and he came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and he ran and embraced him and kissed him. And I know I've told this because any of y'all have ever heard me teach on this one before. I love to think of this scene. That every single day, that father is scanning the horizon. Maybe this is the day he comes home. And I wonder how many times he saw someone come over the hill or came into view. And he goes, maybe it's, oh no, it's somebody else. Wait now, oh, that wasn't him either. But continually looking and hoping. And then there was that one magical day. And again, I try to get inside the father's head. And again, he's probably done this multiple times and been disappointed every single time. But he's looking and he goes, maybe. You know, that looks an awful lot like him. And he keeps getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And he goes, I think it is. And there comes a point where eventually he goes, that's him. And he doesn't take the posture that so many of us would have gone to go, well, I hope you're satisfied with yourself. Not that at all. Yeah, about time you got your act together. What we see instead is, as soon as he knows that it's his son. We have no idea what else is happening that day, what he's in the middle of or whatever, and it doesn't matter. Because what does he do? He runs. And again, you can see the son where he's going, and again, you kind of wonder and go, wow, Dad must be really mad. Because he's not even going to let me get close to the house. He's coming running at me. But I prepared this speech, and if I have to, whatever I've got to do, I need to get the speech out. But Dad comes running at him, and before he can even really get all the words out, Dad has embraced him. That's what that should look like. That's what that should feel like. On both sides of that scenario. The waiting, looking, hoping, every day. And maybe there was fear on the other side, but as soon as you crest that horizon, we don't even give you a chance to get in the door. We're on you. Welcome home. Thank you for coming back. We love you. We know there may be some things that we need to work and fix on and stuff like that. No, let's take care of that later. Right now, I just need you to know we've been waiting for you. Welcome home. And take your spot amongst us. But let's finish the story. Verse 21 said, and his son said to him, so he goes, he said, I got the speech. Come on, Dad, I need to tell you. Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Dad goes, cool story, all right, verse 22, but he goes, but the father said to his servants, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fatted calf and kill it and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and he is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they began to celebrate. So yeah, the son gets his stuff out. He says what he needs to say. And Dad's like, yeah, good. Here's what we're going to do. This amazing celebration is going to happen because, again, you were lost, son. And even when he goes to talk to his other son, he even goes a little bit more drastic and says what? Not just lost. He was dead. I need you to know how severe this was, in case you're missing it, but he's back. We have hope. Yeah, Jason? It's all good.
When the son says in verse 21, I'm no longer worthy to be your son, he was right.
Yep.
He was right. He wasn't worthy of it.
Yep.
The father did have every right not to accept him. He did do something that made him unworthy of the sonship. It's not that the father's like, no, you don't understand, you are worthy. No, you're not. But yet the father is still receiving. I think that gets, again, at the heart of the fruit of the Spirit.
Yep.
That we realize we don't deserve the joy, we don't deserve the peace, we don't deserve the patience that God has with us. We don't deserve to have his faithfulness. Yet he gives it to us every year.
Yeah. And how many of us deserve to be the son? None of us. None of us do. Actually, that's going to be made pretty clear to us here in just a minute. But none of us deserve, neither of his two sons deserve the blessings that were given to them. But he gave them anyways because he loved them. And we need to remember too, don't look and go, well, at least I never messed up like so-and-so. Said this multiple times, okay? Sin in God's eyes all looks the same. None of us are any better off or worse off than the other one. It's what do we choose to do about it? And this son chose to acknowledge, I have messed up. And the mess up has caused me no longer to be acceptable in your eyes. I throw myself at your mercy. And the father says, you got it. I am willing. Not wiping out what you've done. Okay? What you did was wrong. Okay? It still is. It's still wrong. But you've now chosen to come back, to be the son that you should have been in the first place, with some new knowledge and some new understanding, which is probably going to actually make you a better son than you were before. And I'm willing to take you in, willing to accept you, willing to show you what true love looks like. And you can see, or if you think about it again, the audience to whom he is speaking. And they may be looking going, that's a really cool story there. But I love that Jesus goes, just in case you missed the point, let me go one step further. Because that would have been a good place to end the story. That would have been great. We would have all walked away and gone, yay, happy ending. But like so many things in the Bible, verse 25 says, now his older son was in the field, and he came and drew near to the house. He heard music and dancing. And he called out to one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he received him back safe and sound. He doesn't go into the house and check himself. Hey, what's going on? I'm going to stay out here. And I'm going to let you come to me. You tell me. Right? Verse 28, but he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. Again, the father could have gone, well, you're going to be a jerk, whatever. Okay, I'm still going to celebrate with your brother who came home. It's like, nope. Just like I ran to your brother when he came up over the horizon, I'm going to go to you and go, hey, let me explain this to you about what's going on and why your reaction is inappropriate. It's not the right response. Verse 29 says, but he was angry, refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But his father answered him, look, these many years I have served. But he answered, his father says, look, these many years I have served you, and I've never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. And as Jansen pointed out this morning when he says that next thing, but this son of yours, I can hear it. I have probably been guilty of that same phrasing in one way or another. But said, but when this son of yours came who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. And he goes, Dad, I don't get it. Here I have been doing the right thing, and you're excited because he came home. Because he finally did what he's supposed to be doing along. Okay, if you grew up with, or maybe you were, okay, when you raise kids, kids do the things that kids do, and some kids are going to be rule followers, and they're going to just do the stuff they do, and some are going to fight you every step along the way, no matter what you do. And sometimes the kid who's the rule follower and doing the things that they're supposed to will look at the other one and go, why is it always about them? Why does our life have to constantly revolve around their problems? I'm speaking for my life. Because any of y'all that know my younger brother know that we went through this. And that initially was part of my response was going, why are we always doing everything around his latest mess up? I think I may have actually said that to my parents. I didn't get the next part. Verse 31, and when he said to him, son, you are always with me. Notice that he acknowledges, I'm aware. I'm aware of who you are, and I'm aware of what you've been doing. Please, please don't make the mistake of thinking that I don't see it, because I do see it. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. I need you to get the point, brother, other son, how bad things were for your brother. And that's why the efforts were made. And that's why the mercy is shown. Because sometimes the attention is needed on the other individual because they need help getting it together. And it takes them longer to do that. And they maybe need to go through more things. And it's not about one's better than the other or anything about that, because again, none of us deserve to be sons. At best, we are allowed to be servants. But we rely on the mercy of the Father, who forgives. And again, forgiveness for one is no different than forgiveness for the other. We create the ranking scores of sins. That's never in the Bible. But we look at things and go, these are the kind of everyday, normally life stuff there, and sure, you'll kind of forgive those, but ooh, this is the bad stuff. And if you go over here to the bad stuff, that's really hard to forgive, and, you know, extra efforts are made and all those kind of things there. Yes, sir?
There's another point to this story which I don't think we see sometimes, but I think it's also really important. And that is, during the interaction of the father and the son when he came back, the father made no compromise for his actions.
Yep.
What he recognized was that the son figured out that he was in the wrong. And you didn't hear the father go, well, everybody kind of goes through this in your life, it's okay, you know, welcome back. There was none of that.
Yep.
What there was the son recognized that he was in sin. He made a mistake. He had to correct the mistake. And it was incumbent on the father to accept that repentance and accept that apology and accept him back without any conditions.
Yep.
And so many times what we end up doing when we get into these kinds of situations is, you know, we try to whitewash it, we try to make it not as bad, we try to do this or that, to try to make just everybody happy. It's not about making everybody happy. Certainly if you want to all be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But the person who is in sin, the person who has done wrong, has to get to that point where they've recognized the sin that they've committed and decided that that's the wrong course.
Yep.
And I have to change course to get back to the right point.
Yep.
We should not, and I'm careful how I say this, we should not make it easier for them to get back into a relationship just because we want it. They need to come back into the relationship because they understand that they created a problem and they have separated themselves from God and from their family or their loved ones, and that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, we don't get to make something wrong right. We don't get to excuse error, excuse sin, because that's not what this is. That's not what this is here at all. This is you've acknowledged and understood where you've fallen short and have now come and said, I'm willing to admit my mistakes and accept my role now as a servant there. So it's a full acknowledgement of, but then also the other side of that, we got to be really careful sometimes where we go, I need you to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 before, so that's going to be the brother's going to go, well, okay, he's back, but I need him to specifically state everything he's done wrong and acknowledge that and ask for specific forgiveness for each one of the things, then we can discuss it. Because I know that's come up before with relatives of mine going, he never specifically apologized or asked for forgiveness for this. And they're willing to hang on then to it and go, I now feel justified in my willingness to separate from them and not have anything to do with them because they didn't do the magic thing, say the magic words, didn't do the... And I always pull out that phrase in the middle of the model prayer where my willingness to forgive is going to influence God's willingness to forgive me. And what would you want people to do if the shoe were on the other foot? And I think some people will go, but my shoe would never be in those. You don't know. We all can go astray. We all can be that prodigal. But as was stated here, unfortunately, we don't get a happy ending in this story, at least not fully. We do get a restored son. But we also get a son who is just resentful of that. And again, the purpose of those stories. And if the first ones didn't get them, you know this one hit home. Where the Pharisees said, wait a minute, he's talking about us. We're the older brother. And again, what did they do? Instead of going, wow, I don't want to be like that, I don't want to mess up that way, they just dug in further to the point eventually where they're going to go, this guy needs to die. Because the dad's not acting the way that I want him to, then we should just kill him. Mindy, did you get something?
I was thinking of where it talks about the servant tells me that your brother has come back safe and sound. I think sound is an important word that sometimes we miss. I think that's that full, like he's back to his right state of mind, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's come back fully, basically, to
Fully,
us
yeah.
there.
Not just because it's the easier thing
Yeah.
for me to do, but there's a true repentance and he's
Yeah.
fully back.
And what's interesting is the servant gets it. The servant comes to him and goes, no, there's a reason to rejoice here. It's a good thing. You should be excited. And tells the brother, and the brother's like, instead of going, oh, that's great, I've also been looking over the horizon and hoping that he would come back home. He's like, no, I've been busy doing the right thing. And thinking there and busy in doing the right thing, I'm better than he is. And he's not willing to change. All right, so very, very quickly, we've talked about a variety of things over the quarter. And we were going to do other things, but we're not going to have time. So we're just going to jump to Matthew 28. What's the purpose of all this stuff? The purpose of all of this was never for us to just absorb a ton of knowledge and really be impressed with all the things that we can learn and know about that, even though that's important. But what's the purpose of this? Going to Matthew 28, starting verse 16. After everything's happened, Jesus has died, he's been resurrected, all these things are going on before he leaves. Verse 16 says, now the 11 disciples went to Galilee to the mountain which Jesus had directed them. When he saw them, they worshiped, but some of them doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, all authority is in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. We learn so we can share. We learn so we can teach. And sometimes we look at things like the Great Commission and go, that's overwhelming. Sometimes we'll have evangelistic efforts and we look and go, we're going to try to cover the town of San Marcos or whatever it may happen to be, and we go, that's overwhelming, it's too much, it's a lot. And I want to encourage us with this last song that tells us, don't try to, it's like the old phrase, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Don't try to do the whole thing. All right, the name of the song is Go Tell One. It says, we're so busy trying to find a way to shine the gospel light on the whole world that we're prone to walk on by an empty soul with lonely eyes in our own world. They need more than a passing smile. They need someone who will stop and take the time to go tell one of the one who won the victory. Just tell one what he's done to claim our destiny. Make the difference, share his love, tell them of his saving touch. That's all he's ever really asked of us, is go tell one. Jesus waited at the well, anticipating how he would tell her the good news, that she'd never thirst again, and if only she would trust in him, she'd be brand new. The saving power of those spoken words would ignite a flame of hope inside of her. So just tell one of the one who would win the victory. He told one what would be done to claim our destiny. make the difference, share his love, tell them of his saving touch. That's all he's ever really asked of us, is go tell one. He is reminding us that the world can be won if each one would reach one, just one. So go tell one of the one who won the victory. Just tell one what he's done to claim our destiny. Make the difference, share his love, tell them of his saving touch. That's all he's ever really asked of us, is go tell one. So don't look at it as this gigantic, humongous task that I've got. But make it an ordinary, regular part of your life to just tell the story every chance you can, one at a time.